if you don't know who I am.
Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. Today it's time to talk about an official response from the Gaijin team, especially Kirill Yudintsev, about the parts and FPE issue. Now this was posted in two areas. First of all, you have Scarpa here, who is the administrator of the War Thunder forums. He posted it here, and he says it's from Kirill Yudintsev. And then here, on the War Thunder Reddit, in the FPE parts mega thread, all of the links will be in the description for these things. This is posted by Today's, and from some credible people, I have been told that this is Kirill's actual Reddit account. So, therefore, we're taking this as this is Kirill's, and if you don't want to take this as Kirill's, then we have the corroborating evidence from Scarpa. And now, remember, Scarpa is an administrator, he's a staff member, so therefore he holds more credence than the average person who would have posted it, so we're taking it as this is the official response from Kirill Yudintsev. Now, who is Kirill? Kirill is the brother of Anton Yudintsev, and also is the creative director of War Thunder. He's done some videos in the past. He actually did 2 of them earlier this year, and personally, I liked them. I thought they were nice. In the first one, the body language wasn't very positive, but by the second one, he did a great job at putting forward his points. It felt like you were being talked to properly. The points that he was bringing up felt very genuine. The fact that they were trying to work through specific issues that the community had brought up. Overall, it was a great video series, and I hope in the future we get more of them. It has been a while since the last one, and they only made 2, so maybe there's time constraints or something going on there. But overall, Kirill has been a, open member of the community, I think is the best way of putting it. It was definitely part of Gaijin over the last year or so being more open to the community, and it's nice to see that they're continuing it. So, what we're going to do is go through the post itself, see what it says, and I'll give my opinion on it. So, hello. I guess I need to do something right here. First of all, I think the most important for all people here, we are analyzing of what we can do to make you happier. Now remember, Kirill, English is not his first language, so writing down in English isn't always the easiest, but we can still, take what's, coming from it. So here, in the first sentence, we know that they know about the issue, that they are thinking about the issue, and that the response from the community has obviously made a difference, so that's great. I know you can say, just make FPE in parts free and open from the stock. Well, this is not a brilliant idea. There are reasons why not all vehicles and not all modifications are available from the start, in fact several of them. This is not a time to talk about vehicles, but modifications are also part of the game. I mean their research and unlock. So back to the point. We are discussing and analysing lots of ideas now, making other ways to get FPE in parts, making other options to repair, making changes in FPE in parts, research time and price on 5 and 6 era. Or rank for us in the West. FPE in parts were in ground forces from the beginning, several years. So we are not talking about things like you have changed the game and ruined it, your community wouldn't like this. We are talking about new changes to the things that are in the game from the beginning. I also want to notice that we have lowered FPE and repair parts time to open several times. And last one, short after 6th era tanks were added, not much time ago. Now, if you remember when that was, I did a video about it just a few days ago. This was on the 30th of November last year, when they reduced a hell of a lot of research. And I showed it in the video talking about, basically November versus October 2018. And in that video I showed that today we have much more high tier, research costs compared to last year, where it was decided that they were going to lower them. So in my opinion, if we look at the stats, we are in for at least some kind of reduction if we take the same logic that was used last year. Now, obviously, this isn't always the case. I would say go and watch that video if you haven't seen it, but mainly that was the gist of it. So they have lowered them in the past, 10 months ago. But the amount of rank 6 content that we've got over the last year has been quite startling. They've definitely filled it out, and also they've got rid of some of the research parts. So you can only research vehicles at 380 or 390,000, where before there was a little bit of leeway, 270, 320,000, areas that weren't as expensive, but they just cut them and just went from 210 to 380,000. So my personal fix for this whole thing would be to reduce those gaps between the vehicles, and then Bob's your uncle. All is done. But what is happening here in this sentence is that he talks about how it's not a good idea to just make stuff free, and that can be debated. For me personally, I agree with him, because if you take a system that was, let's call it paid for or grinded for before, and make it free, the first thing that you do is annoy all of the players who grinded for it or bought it for Golden Eagles in the first place. This is what happens when a game goes free to play. Generally, a game will go free to play if it's dying, just because they want more players in. Battleborn is a great example of this. There are a few games, though, that in early access you pay for, and then when it comes to full release, it's going to be free to play. And what you find from the community is a lot of annoyed players. The players that paid, in the first place, and then have to, basically bring in a lot of free-to-play players. If you don't compensate those people well enough, then what you find is a lot of annoyed, angry people who have spent money when if they just waited a few months, they would have got it for free. So, for that crowd of people, you have to work out how do you compensate them, and if you're not going to compensate them, will they be angry or not, is the best way of putting it. Another thing to look at is what this sentence screams to me is now you know that they're listening to the community of War Thunder, at least the Western side of it, the War Thunder Reddit side, the English forum side. This is the time to bring solutions. What I've seen a lot of is people saying parts and FPE are too expensive, and then leaving it there. What I've always advocated for, and always will advocate for, is the idea that if you're going to table a discussion, bring a solution. So this is the time to talk about solutions. So if you have one, or if you want to debate one, this is the time to do it. Make threads or, post in these threads about what you would personally do. And now you know that they're looking, you never know. It may come to fruition in the game. But I think he's putting down a wall here by saying, look, this is the battlement. We are sticking the battlement on, we're not going to make them free. So that's off the table. Everything else, though, can be discussed. I think, if you just lower the stuff like they did last time, then I think it would be completely fine, or at least bring back the 270, 320, and then when it comes to parts and FPE, you can reduce them accordingly. I'm noticing that not because I'm trying to convenience you, that there is nothing convince, I'm guessing you're supposed to say you, that there is nothing you want to change or like. I'm pointing that any change in here is better to be carefully thinked and made. Not something we need to do ASAP, but something we need to make probably. What's kind of funny there is that's exactly how Kirill talks, if you've ever watched his other two things. Anyway, it will take time from us, I guess a few weeks. We're also very busy with helicopters and naval forces after last updates. As well, please understand we are not a very big team. Thanks for your patience and supporting the game, by the way. So, with this sentence, it's basically saying, look, we've got a lot going on. Naval, still in CBT. We know that the Royal Navy is in the files, at least on the dev side of things, it's in the dev server files. They've talked about how by the end of the year, they want to get nearly at least all the trees, or nearly all the trees, I should say, of naval forces out. Helicopters have just been released, obviously at top tier. When we look at them in ground forces, they're probably not having the impact that they're thinking that they should. And also, the fact that they're crazy expensive as well isn't obviously helping here. But now that, more people are going to have their tester stars, hopefully, we see a bit more from the helicopters. That's what I'm hoping. So there's a lot going on at Gaijin HQ. Now, whether you can blame them for this, or blame us for this is, a topic for debate. Obviously, as consumers, what you find from a community point of view is there's a lot of community members who want different things. There'll be some who want ships, some who want helicopters, some will want rank 6, some will want other stuff such as World War II things like me, and then, all of this comes together, and what a company can find itself in is it can find itself in a place where they are doing too many things too quickly. And the problem with this is you end up taking a really long time on doing everything at once instead of compartmentalizing and doing one thing at once. Focusing on one thing, finishing that, moving on to the next. And for me personally, when I'm either a project lead or whenever I'm involved in a structure like this, what I like to do is okay, let's break it down. Let's do this one first, then this one, then this one, then this one. It makes it easier because it makes you feel like you're in a position where you are breaking it down sufficiently, so each task you are able to do quickly, and over time, it may not feel like over time because you feel like you're being successful over and over again, you'll eventually get the whole project done. It's the easiest way of doing the whole thing. But obviously, in Gaijin's view, they are doing a lot at the same time. Now, whether that's because they have different teams working on different things, and if they didn't have the different things, there would not be those different teams. Obviously we don't know the inner workings here, but for me, this looks like we're already stretched quite a lot. Adding more to the barrel may not be a great idea. My own experience, and some Redditors here too, show that the most annoying is parts and FPE research on 6 rank. I know that you can say that on any rank, you better get the most upgraded vehicle as it can be. And at least with parts and FPE, or FPE and parts and so on. But this is a different question. Well, all, I guess, already played the game and get up to 4 rank at least, and most of us up to 6 rank, I think. That means that it is not a big issue on lower ranks, or people would just leave the game /GF and never post here about how long is it on top ranks. Well, on low ranks, it is about few battles, no time to post. Right, that is quite hard to understand, but I think I get the gist. The gist is this is a top tier problem. If you look at the lower tiers, as he says, rank 1 to 4, you don't really see a lot of people complaining about it because it won't take a lot of battles to get parts. There are a few vehicles, especially rank 4, which do take a lot of time, but I would agree with him, this is mainly a rank 6 issue. It's also partly a rank 5 issue, but the issue with some rank 5 machines is not really about parts and FPE, it's more about the ammunition that they have available to them. The Leopard 1, for example, STB 1. I also think the M48 and M60. All of these vehicles do not naturally use their stock round as you normally would, and their stock round is actually pretty pitiful. You're talking about Sabo, you're talking about APCR. The Sabo rounds are not as good as the Heat rounds, the Heat FS rounds that you would rather take, and the APCR of the M48 is, well, it hurts, I think is the best way of putting it. So, when we look at rank 5, parts and FP is definitely an issue, but I think there are some other issues which are more prevalent to those vehicles. So if we just look at it from that point of view, yes, it's a rank 6 issue. Now the question is, how big is the rank 6 player base compared to the rest of the game? And obviously it's quite large, or at least it's one of the most vocal parts of the community, which you would expect. They've spent the most time in the game, they've spent the most time playing the game, and because of that, you would expect them to be the most vocal part of the community because they're the most involved. So it is definitely correct to remember that this is really only a rank 6 and maybe partly a rank 5 issue that we're dealing with here. It is quite a large issue, but it is only for those areas, and that's only looking at ground forces. Now for me, I see this as an issue in rank 5 jets, but obviously we're not talking about that. Well, the main thing you need to take away from here is the first experience, the first sentence. My own experience, and some Redditors here too, show that the most annoying is parts FPE research on rank 6. So this is Kirill's own opinion on what he finds the most annoying in the game. That means that from his perspective, that is the issue that needs to be solved, right? Since the community is going on about the parts in FPE, and he personally finds the rank 6 one the issue, then that is the one that is going to be focused on. Am I right, gents? Just to notice, we were planning to return to modification research on top ranks after Naval Forces and Helicopters release, because there are lots of things we wanted to rethink about as game changed and evolved. But I guess you want to hear something right now in ASAP, so we are putting that on the top of the list. Now, that means that if there was going to be FPE and parts changes, if the community didn't talk about it, it would have probably come sometime next year. And as I mentioned, if we looked at the stats from the other day in the other video, the main thing to take from that video was the fact that we are in a position now compared to 10 months ago where we have more high tier, top tier research requirements than we did back then, and back then they decided that lowering it was a good idea. So bringing this to the forefront, as he's talking about here, I don't know whether he's talking about talking about it or talking about actually dealing with it. But what I'm personally taking from this is, that we were planning to return to modification research, and then we're putting that on top of the list, that we may take a hit on whether Naval Forces it's going to take a little bit longer. Maybe some of the helicopter issues will not get solved as quick, but this will be seen as, the top priority. So what do we take from this? What we take from is that the guys at Gaijin do listen to what's going on, right? The second thing is now we have acknowledgement. The third thing is now is time for solutions. So if you have solutions, talk about them. Bring them up. See which ones conquer the others. This is what, as a community, we need to do. This is why I said in the video about civility, the War Thunder Player Council may be something to revive, because you need a unified voice from the community to be able to bring up these issues. If it comes from individuals, it isn't as powerful, but if it comes from groups, it is of course powerful when it comes to games. So what needs to be done is solutions. So what we need to do over the next week is talk and bring up and work out proper solutions for these issues, which isn't just, free parts and FPE, because that is off the table, as seen in this message. But anyway, I hope you had a wonderful time watching the video, and I'll see you next time.